Victor is in central Ukraine right now. And
Yes.
yeah, so today's discussion was going to be a little bit about this new type of business model for the world that we're in right now. And so that, you know, people who are creative, who want to have meaning in their work, who are intellectuals, who are trying to solve world problems, can also make a living and survive. And right now, it's not easy to do both of those things at the same time. But I wouldn't know as much about this as Victor, because he's right in the middle of, you know, the war that's going on with Russia. So Victor, tell us some thoughts about work and life in Ukraine right now, and you know, where are your thoughts?
Well, thank you for having me on this Zoom call. I want to thank for the support that I am getting from all over the world for Ukraine. I am thankful for all the messages of support that I am getting. I want to say that Ukraine is in the process of war. It's not easy for our human rights, for our people. We feel the pressure from Russia Federation. We don't know how long it will take to make some progress for us to make it over. And it looks like we are in the long process of war. And that's why we are trying to be positive and trying to find some solutions right now. And I think one of the solutions is to make business more productive, to make some new business models that can bring new potential to Ukrainians as a nation. So I hope that some of experience that European Union and America can bring to Ukraine will help to make lives of Ukrainians better.
That's a great positive message. And I was, you know, reading in your signal message earlier that you said there's actually some positives coming out of this, which is, if I understand it correctly, there is more collaboration with people around the world. There's greater understanding of people around the world about what's happening in your country. So communication is better, and you know, people are learning about what democracy is and who's actually fighting for it and what that means. Yes. But also there could be collaboration in the future, more business opportunities. Is that kind of what you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course, we are waiting for some new challenges. Of course, we are in process of getting to the European Union, and it sounds like we will get some grants and some financing to make major improvements in our infrastructure, in our government, on government level, on private level, on business level. So we hope that we can make drastic changes and develop to the next level of business thinking with this.
No, I like the idea. And, you know, Vladan and I have been talking a lot about this with my organization, Glider Cell, that, you know, if you're a knowledge worker, if you work with information and ideas, right? Content strategy, narrative development, technology, all these things, we don't have to be confined to people in here where I live in California or the United States. It could be global. And so one idea we had was when we were doing these YouTube interviews earlier, we wanted to hire people who were displaced by the war. So we're a small operation. We tried to publicize that as best as possible to raise funds for Ukrainian workers. But maybe there was distrust, or maybe we didn't get out enough information. But it was very difficult for us to raise funds. But I would still like to do that because the war continues, and even after the war is over, there will be some rebuilding I mean, I hope it's like the Marshall Plan was at the end of World War II, where we send resources from Europe and the United States and everywhere else. We rebuild, we make Ukraine better than ever before. So do you think that's possible?
Yes, sure. We need all possible help, and I think that it's very good initiative to help people that are displaced to adapt to new circumstances, to help them with work, because it makes people to believe in future. They are not locked in this tragic news that are coming every day to their places, to their minds, and it makes it's unbearable to live with all of this.
Yeah,
So people need
absolutely.
to take something from the side, something positive.
Right. And, you know, this also brings up another point that it's a communications and an information war as much as an actual war. Like, we have to get the message out about Ukrainian identity and the struggle and what you need. And there's also, and I don't know what the attitude is in Ukraine, but there's also the Russian people. There are many who read and who have the proper information, and they're on your side. They're not for the war. And so would you be opposed to working with them collaboratively with people from?
You know, I think it's a challenge for future to make this dialogue possible, because I have friends in Moscow. They are supportive. They don't watch TV. They are making their own conclusions, and it looks like a lot of people in Russia are like this. But right now, our society is not ready to this dialogue, because right now we are in the process of war, and it's easier to make everyone to look on anyone from Russia as an enemy. So I think it's a big process of psychological change. We need to change our approach to this item.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because, you know, if you take a look at the resentment, anger, hatred at Germany following World War II, you know, if you were a group who was sent to a concentration camp, and it took many, many years to try to overcome that, even with people who didn't support, you know, what the Nazis were doing, it took decades. So I guess it's one step at a time. Vladan, what do you think? What is your opinion?
Well, I mean, I have many opinions, and what can be interesting for you to know, Victor, is that me and Lee actually made a video regarding regarding Ukraine, and I mean, what's happening regarding the war. I mean, and I think that from my experience, because I've been to Ukraine like 3 times, is that despite everything that's happening, there is still a strong sense of optimism and kind of let's go forward, let's you know, create Ukraine into something better. And this is why I see the potential that new things can be done in Ukraine. And Lee, what can be interesting very much for you is that Victor is actually working on a project about creating a smarter, how to say, smarter city in Ukraine, like in a more decentralized way. Yeah.
Oh, like a smart village. Or smart city.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Vladan has sent me a link on the article. It's about smarter cities, not smart cities, because we don't need to look on a future citizen as a user. We need to see human side in every person that are living. So we need to make all the environment needed to develop this human part of every human being.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about
yeah,
community.
Yeah, so that leads into what I was proposing in our Signal chat, which was that you know, there's a difference sometimes between the kind of work we do, which we have to do to survive, and then who we really are as human beings. Like what, you know, some of us, it's important. And I can't say that every human being is like this, but I want to believe that every human being wants to do something meaningful, you know, either for their friends, family, the world, in some way. But they can't always find work, you know, that is in that area. And so people do their jobs and then they do something meaningful on the side. But I'm proposing that we can do both at the same time, which would be that as an organization, we would bring in other people and we bring in projects, and then we make proposals on work that we can do for those projects. Or we bring in actual jobs that are posted somewhere on one of these job platforms. They're all over, they're global now. This way, like, for example, there's these jobs that I bid on sometimes where I'll know like 90% of what I need to know, but I may not get the job because there's some parts I don't know. But if we had a group, other people would do those parts. And so that's what I mean by rise of the knowledge worker, you know, that there's things that we can do. We just have to give it a good name and to promote it and tell them whatever your project is, if it deals with information and knowledge in some way, or innovation, creativity, deep thinking, we can do it, our group. And we have, you know, it's like a think tank, but a modern think tank. It's global with different types of skills and intelligence types and personality types. So I hope you're open to something like that.
Yes, it's about connecting dots in the right way, because nobody has seen the full picture, but everyone has seen some puzzle of this full picture. And if we bring everyone to the table, we can see the full picture as it is.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the, well, fan of the fan. I'm a fan of, that was an inside joke, of the concept, the whole, you know, is greater than the sum of its parts. So it's kind of
Yes.
a collective imaginary, a collective brain, different people, different countries, different perspectives. And if we all work together on a project, the cumulative effect of that for the client is that we're going to produce something really outstanding, you know, really creative and deep.
Yes.
And so this whole idea of just hiring like a person to do a functionary, like a menial task, you know, it doesn't make sense. And I'm still trying to come up with the right words to describe this other than metamodern. Not everyone knows what metamodern is.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, it's a new term for Ukrainians.
yeah, I mean, but we need new ways to earn a living and to survive and to do well, because so many of the people I meet who are deep or creative or artistic, intellectual, musicians, whatever they are told that you can't live well. We don't want you to live well. I mean, it feels like that. I mean, nobody actually says that. So I've been thinking of solutions for a long time now, so that we don't have to ask, you know, the 1%, the millionaires, the billionaires to fund our projects. The group becomes like a self-thriving, you know, organization.
Yes, it's about right planning. We need to make some planning of our steps that can bring us to the goal.
Well, so if you don't mind me asking him, because you're the first person I've spoken to who's actually in Ukraine right now. The former person we spoke to, Vlad, and introduced me to was, he goes by the name Sergei Sputnikov, which I think is a fake name, but he was from Kyiv in the time of the Soviet Union. And so he's over here educating a lot of Americans on, you know, what's really happening over there. And he has over 56,000 subscribers. And so people need to know. So what can you tell us, since this will mostly be an American audience that I will be sending this video to, what do we still need to know about the war and about your, you know, hopes and dreams, and like, what are you hoping for?
It's a lot of different layers on this. We have informational war, we have actual war with missiles hitting civilian objects. It's a real world. It's like a Call of Duty, but in real world. So it makes hard to believe that in 21st century we can have something like this. And we see that European countries are not so sure. They can't find a solution because they're not ready to the dangers like this right now. NATO is not working properly. So I hope that we need to develop new system of resistance for the challenges like this one. And I hope that everyone that have courage to help in this need to come up with ideas, with messages. And also I am asking people not to be loud, to be vocal with their position. They need to express widely what is happening in Ukraine. We have a lot of independent sources in Europe, in America, in Ukraine, and we need to popularize the idea of Russian invasion. It's war. It's not special operation like Russians are talking liking to name this. So I hope that everyone will unite to support Ukraine and to resist against evil that Russia brings to the world, to the humanity.
So do you think that this is mostly the result of like an old authoritarian dictator, Putin, and he's dreaming of glory, and this has more to do with him and his legacy than the people around him? Do you think the Russian people, do you think they're just filled with bitterness and hatred towards Ukraine? Are they just being lied to? I mean, what do you think the cause is?
I think it's collective mental state of Putinism, of imperialism that is living in the heads of Russians. Putin is the product of the system. He was in charge, so he is not far from the system. He is part of the system, and everyone is part of the system. It's not only Putin's fault. This events that are happening. It's a non-verbal agreement from everyone in Russia to do what they do right now. So I don't see this as a Putin action. It's all Russian Federation action. It's aggression from all Russian Federation to independent state of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at a party in San Jose not too long ago, about a year ago, and no, probably 2 years ago. And there was someone there from, there was one person was from Lithuania, another was from either Russia or maybe the part of Ukraine that has a lot of Russians. And they were having drinks to the former Soviet Union, like having a toast, because they wanted their old glory. And I didn't see that as a warning sign at the time, that there were people who actually believed this. And so maybe it was part of their propaganda, but they romanticize, that period of history. So anyway, I just think, that's...
I can understand this. People want to get back to the youth when they was young and happy and everything was bright, but it's not about a strategy. It's not strategical move. It's like no reflection in this.
No,
it's like
I agree. And so, it's all about, sorry, Vladan, go ahead.
No, I have a similar experience. If you now speak about the post-communist Europe, in my case, it's about former Yugoslavia. And this is mainly dominant today in Serbia. These narratives, I would say more myths about greatness and power and territory, and via the system. These kind of narratives are still alive, and they are kind of empowering the current system of authoritarianism and collectivism in Serbia, because what I see in this kind of Soviet nostalgia is a little bit like the same things as with Yugo nostalgia, is basically that we don't understand, or we don't accept this modern globalized world. We don't want to be we think European Union is bad because it's like a conspiracy, it's against us. And these narratives are usually quite similar to the narratives you will hear among the far-right populist, far-right nationalist parties in Europe. They have a little bit the same thing, like how things used to be better in the 70s or the 80s. And it's very much about, it's not about freedom, it's not about human rights, it's not about the individual, it's not about progress and change and openness, but it's more about all the opposite developments, like isolation, nationalism, kind of reducing yourself, like limiting yourself mentally, that government should control more both economy and humans and so on. So this is kind of the similar types of narratives and myths that are still kind of alive.
Really quick, Vladan, I think you bring up a good point, because we have to overcome human psychology if we're going to win at this. And what I mean is that we tell ourselves lies too about our own past. Take a look at anybody's resume or CV or their LinkedIn profile, and we have to tell these stories to ourselves that make sense, otherwise our life doesn't seem to be following a pattern that we understand. And so it could be false, that we look back, we don't see the whole picture. It's easier for the brain to just see good or bad as opposed to nuance, complexity. And so that is part of the problem. But so to counteract that, we're going to have to come up with a counter narrative, and I think it's important that, I hope you agree that, Ukraine will need to have a powerful message. Zelensky has done a great job, of telling that story to the world, but we just need more of it. So would you agree with that, or is there?
Yeah, he is like a teacher of history, of world history. They are showing on the real cases that are connected with nations that he is referring to. He shows to people that it's part of history. Everything that is happening is have a tendency to repeat, and he just shows all the negativity that already have been in the world history, are bringing these times, getting to this point too.
Well, so tell me, have you been involved in the conflict yourself? Have you seen any combat, or are you continuing to work your regular job, or what's it like for you personally?
Well, I am working as a volunteer. I am making some projects that will help volunteers, and are helping volunteers right now. One of my projects is IT platform that is connecting volunteers of different kinds and helping them to make their work more efficient. Another project is to help displaced persons to make their living, to find new homes. So I am trying to be productive in the way that I am most known with. Yeah, and I am not trying to put myself to the stages when I am not productive. So I think that all the work that is doing our army need to be done, but these people are professionals. They are trained as professionals, and me as a business-minded person, I can help in this in my zone of efficiency.
So since you mentioned business-minded, what is your your training and your education?
Well, I have financial education. I started my career from making entrepreneur attempts. I was making financial literacy projects. I was involved in project to develop first independent financial advisors in Ukraine. I was working with a Central Bank of Ukraine to make program to help people rise their level of financial literacy. Also, last few years, around 5 years, if to be precise, I was working on different investment communities to help rise investment culture in Ukraine. So I am just all the time I am trying to be to work with big ideas with social influence, with social impact.
So are you more of the the idea person? You come up with the project, the program, and then you sell it, or you don't do the technical, the coding or the building of the platform, right?
No, I am a social networking person. I'm connecting people with money with people who have resources. They have that have big ideas and have possibility to implement something big. Yeah, that's my best way of living. And I am very idea-driven person. First few years of my life after university, I was working without money. I was driven by the idea to implement financial literacy in Ukraine because I have an example of my parents. So they don't have a lot to rely on after the productive period of their time. So I was searching for a way to help people that are in the same situation like they are.
No, I think that's fantastic because one of my frustrations, which I might have mentioned, is that if you're in the liberal arts, if you are a thinking or creative type of or a deep thinker, a lot of times you'll get lost in thoughts, and those thoughts are not always about business and the economy and making money. And you're not trained on, here's what you will need to survive. Here's how much money you need for various things. Here's how to put some money. This is about interest rates or about, what you're worth. Like, how do you sell yourself in the economy? And I can tell you from, I was a political science major, history minor. I had a concentration in Russian, East Central European studies, and music. And not a single class talked about money. and same in high school. Nobody was talking about money. And so as a result, I have a lot to learn still about that. So I think what you're doing is great. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I am inspired by the rise of volunteer movement in Ukraine, because right now I can see that a lot of people are idea driven. At some point of my life, I was thinking that I am the only one who is ready to sacrifice money for idea. But right now I see that it's not like that. We have a lot of people and they need to be united.
Well, so this is the problem we have to solve. I used to call it intellectual capital. There is capital here. There is value. But how do we take that, give it a name, and sell it? Because either we have to change the economy so that they recognize this type of work, or we have to replace it with something else. And I don't think we're going to replace it yet with some type of an economy where you don't need currency. I don't think that's going to happen anytime.
We still have hopes on blockchain and other metamodern technologies.
Well, the best example I can think of is like in the Second Life, the virtual world, there was a currency called Linden dollars. And at first they were just, this is the money you use inside your virtual world, right? You play this, not play, but you go in there. It's like a metaverse. It's been around for 15 years, but now the Linden dollars are exchangeable for, at least in the United States, for US dollars, because it became very valuable within there. So I think, you might be onto something where if you create a big enough community of this exchange system, that then becomes exchangeable in, up here on the ground level, for real currency. I hope.
Yes.
But it's going to take some work.
Yes. Dreams need to come true.
Yeah, I've been right. And, I also think of that phrase, former President Obama used this one a lot. And I know he didn't come up with it, was around before then, but it was, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Like, you can't look to other people, like, we're the ones. We either make this happen or we don't. Because other people may not do it for us.
We shouldn't rely on next gen. We should start from ourselves.
Yeah, I think so too. We have to do that. What are your immediate plans right now? What are your next steps?
Right now, I'm working on 2 projects: IT platform for volunteers. We should present it to local authorities in Kyiv. Also, I'm working on the project of future city, and it needs more idea-based people. So I am bringing everyone who have ideas, who have resources, to help build something big in Ukraine, near Kyiv. It's in Bucha region, by the way. Bucha region that was pretty much destroyed by Russian missiles.
That was tragic. So how far did you say you are from that region? I mean, has your town been affected by the war?
My town was affected, but not so much as other regions. So it's pretty much safe right now in my region. But you never know with all these plans of Belarus, of Russia Federation, what we can expect in next days and months.
Yeah, so much of this is mindset, attitude that, Ukraine is powerful and the people there are resistant and resilient and will continue to fight. And they fought Stalin, for 12 years, I think, to resist. And I think, 4 million people sadly, perished in that starvation, if I understand. So there is a long history of that, of that resistance.
Ukrainian history is very painful. It's all about trying to make a living, to show all the world that we have this possibility and right to be independent. It's all about independence and freedom, all through all our history of nation.
Yeah, well, this brought back some memories of my family because, they lived in a town called Berdichev and Odessa, and they were chased out 100 years ago by the Cossacks, who I believe were, hired really by the Russians, again, to chase undesirable people out of the country. And so, when I went to this, there was a rally here. There's a big Slavic population in Sacramento where I live, and big Ukrainian community, and they had a big gathering at our capital, and it was very emotional. For me and everyone who was there when the war started. So we support you fully. And
thank you. I feel this support, and I am grateful for everyone. Vladlen and I are part of Emerge Gathering, and it's a very good initiative to help Ukrainians, to help all the world to solve actual crisis moments, social crises, and so on.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, there's a day-long event going on right now with the Emerge gathering, or the Emerge network, and we're going to attend the last session. So Vladan, did you have any final comments?
Well, I'm just happy that we had this call. We can have some reflections, and hopefully that we can start doing things together, because after all, we do want to not only change our mindset, but to change, for example, how the economy is working in general. If you now speak about this decentralization, and I strongly believe like Ukraine is a good place for change, especially after the war, because Ukraine has a history of kind of bottom-up initiatives, little bit of anarchism, kind of little bit of like, let's do things locally without any central government. So I admire that. So.
Yeah. So oh, sorry. Go ahead, Victor.
No, I'm just thankful for you and to all people who make this call possible, because it's very important discussion for me, and I hope that it can bring some more information about the events in Ukraine to people all around America and Europe.
Yeah, so you just remember that America or any country isn't just what you see on YouTube or cable news. We're not. We're a lot more complex than that. There's a lot of people. I would say the majority of this country, supports you, supports the nation and Zelensky, and we just have to be careful with what kind of information we consume, because it's deceiving. You have to have meetings like this where you can discuss what's really happening, how people really feel. So anyway, I wish you well. I wish you the best of luck. And we're going to be in touch, and I'm going to stop the recording so we can say a few things off the record.
Thank you. Glory to Ukraine.
Slava Ukraine.